people out. You know, I've told that story a few times. You know, playing high school football at Teddy Bruschi, you know, you count the people in line on the other side to make sure that you're not the one he's going to hit. Right? So you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, how many people were like watching Jesus and they're kind of doing this? Because there were people that were not committed. I know we have a hard time believing that, but there were people following him around that were not committed to his ministry. Okay, as tremendous and wonderful, a truthful leader and amazing teacher and insight and all that, there are people who are wandering around with him that weren't committed. There are people who are just like, this sounds cool, I'm in. And then all of a sudden he starts going, okay, you, because it says he appointed, doesn't say he asked for volunteers. Volunteers, that's easy. How many of you would volunteer to? You know, then you get the courageous 5 that are really going to do it. But in this case, he's appointing 72. And so he's looking and he says, okay, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. There's people in that crowd that were going, how many think he's taking them? Because he started over there, that's good news. You know, and then there are people who are like, how can I make myself look less here? Right? How can I do that like where I blend into the chair that I'm sitting in so nobody sees my face? You know, where's the biggest guy in the room? I'll sit behind him. You know, there was probably a lot of different reactions and facial expressions going on. There were probably a lot of people trying to figure out, whoa, you know, and enthusiasm, fear. Do you think there was fear? Absolutely, there was fear in that crowd. There were people who were going, I'm not equipped to do that. There was fear. There was fear when Moses was selected. So before everybody starts stressing out, Moses was freaked out. Moses was concerned. Moses was worried about his abilities. Do you think Jesus only picked people that were like, you know, Captain Amazing, wonderful, street corner preacher types? I doubt it. He paired them up 2 by 2 for accountability, strength, friendship, all those things. You know, and so he goes through this process, and I would have loved to have been there to see the looks. In a weird way, to my 2010 self, it would have been nice to see fear. Because that's what most of us would have endured in that moment. When we think back to, yeah, I'd have been a little freaked out. I'd have been a little stressed. I'd have been a little worried. I'd have been a little overwhelmed. And see, obedience does those things to us sometimes. The idea is, oh gosh, this isn't easy. But we go and we do it. And so he appoints the 72, so I would love to see the 72 get sent. And he didn't expect followers, he built doers. He looked at him and he said, okay, now listen, I'm going to give you the tools, the instruction, and the truth. I'm going to give you those things, and now I'm going to expect you to go do it. Now I'm going to expect you to get out of your chair and go do it. It's not enough to say I'm in, you have to be in. It's not enough to follow, you have to do. And so when Christ comes to you and he says, I need you to do this, you go. When he appointed those 72, they went. And they did some tremendous things and some amazing things, proclaiming the news of Christ, his arrival, and things were going on. So he went through. And it was an honor to be asked to do something by your rabbi. It was an honor because it meant that you were an accepted student, that you were an accomplished student, that you were someone who was doing something. So there was an honor to being asked. We look at opportunities to obey sometimes as obligation. Well, why me? When your rabbi asks you to do something, it's an honor because it means that you are equipped and prepared to do it. And so it should be an honor when Christ comes to us in our prayers and during our days and he says, I need you to do this. It should be an honor in our lives to go, yes, absolutely. Instead of, ask him. I'm trying to hide. He didn't know. That's not my thing. And he says, no, I have you set aside for this work. I need you to do it. Because Christ didn't expect any inactivity. There's a difference between inactivity and rest. Inactivity is laziness. I've got a good thing going in my Christian life because the church I go to is cool. It's working out really well. I really like what the pastor has to say occasionally. He says some good things 2 out of 3. The worship team only hits on a bad note every 4 weeks. I go to a good situation. We have lots of good food by the way tonight, but we have a lot of good food. We have a lot of these things. Great little activities. They're fun. We have good activities. Youth group's great. And so we start, my Christian life's fantastic. It's in a nice little ball and it's working out good. But the reality is that can be inactivity. We can give 100 hours a week to our church and be inactive in our faith. And a lot of times we feel like, well, Jesus, didn't you see? Didn't you see everything I did last week? And he goes, yeah, but didn't you see the list of stuff I gave you? None of that was on there. Well, I appreciate some of those things that you're doing. Those are very nice. Those are not what I have asked for you to do. And so a lot of times we get very confused and we confuse ourselves, and we're sort of bred to an inactive Christian life. And an active Christian life doesn't breed us into a life of obedience. It pulls us away from it, because all of a sudden we start looking at stuff and we go, that's impossible. That's insane. Jesus would never ask me to do that. Really? Look at the thing he just asked them to do. I'm sending you out like lambs among wolves. Does that sound like something that's safe and easy and perfect and wonderful and fantastic? No, it sounds crazy. There's a lot of things he asks them to do that if you were asked to do, I don't know, how would you feel about it? Go talk to that person. No way. That's crazy. And Jesus would never ask me to do that, because he knows I make soup. And that's how we become very comfortable and very inactive in our Christian lives, because we've decided that this inactivity of faith is really what our activity is. But see, active faith requires faith. The things we do a lot of times in our Christian lives don't require faith. That's what Tozer was saying, which is an obedient person is the one that God deals the faith out to. It's a very edgy statement.